silent. Call me a pig one more time, Ife. I dare you. And I swear this time I won't just walk away. I will bury your ego along with your fake pride. Tari wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't begging. She stood tall in heels and power. She had rebuilt from scratch. The man before her, once her husband, now just a shadow of everything she had risen above, stood stunned beside the woman he had thrown her away for. And this is how it all began. The next few days passed like a silent storm. Tari barely spoke. She spent most of her time either sleeping or sitting by the window, watching the leaves in Choka's garden sway in the wind. Her phone was off. Her mind even more so. She ignored social media, ignored missed calls from neighbors and family, and ignored the part of her that kept whispering that maybe she had overreacted, that maybe Efe just got lost in success and would definitely come back. But she remembered his eyes. It was cold, detached, and finished. There was no coming back from that. Chuka was respectful of her silence. He didn't push and he didn't probe. But his presence was constant. He made sure she had hot meals. He invited her to sit with him during evening TV. And when she didn't show up, he left a plate for her at the dining table with a simple handwritten note. Eat when you can. You matter. It was that small gesture that finally broke her numbness. She cried again, but this time not out of pain, out of release. That night, Tari picked up the weight loss book again. She took it to bed and began reading, carefully this time. It wasn't a crash diet guide, it was something deeper, a philosophy, a gentle, holistic approach that combined detox teas, clean eating, and portion control with meditation and movement. The next morning, she surprised herself by waking up early. She put on her sneakers, tied a scarf around her head, and stepped outside. Chuka was already on the patio, drinking tea. Morning, he said, standing. I'm going for a walk, she said. His eyebrows lifted. Alone? She nodded. I need to feel something again. He smiled. Just don't go far. And there's fruit salad when you get back. She walked down the estate road, her steps unsure. Her heart pounded, not from the effort, but from the vulnerability. Her lungs burned, her calves ached, but something in her refused to stop. By the time she returned, sweaty and tired, Chuka was waiting with a cold glass of lemon water and a towel. That was day 1. Day 2, she followed the tea recipe from the book. Day 3, she started a food journal. Day 4, she cleaned out Chuka's guest room mini fridge and stocked it with boiled eggs, cucumber sticks, water bottles, and zobo she made herself. By the end of the first week, she had built a routine. Morning walks, herbal teas, simple meals, sleep, read, and heal. Chuka began joining her on the walks. Sometimes they walked in silence. Sometimes he told her stories about his mother's journey. How she had once weighed over 110 kilograms. How she fought societal judgment. How she rebuilt herself. She used to cry every time she climbed the stairs, Chuka said one day. But by the end, she was jogging laps. It wasn't the body, it was her belief in herself that changed. Tari nodded slowly. I want that. You already started it, he replied. By the 3rd week, she could feel the difference. Not just in her jeans that fit looser, but in her shoulders that start straighter, in the way she looked in the mirror, no longer flinching. One night, as they ate roasted plantain and fish in the backyard, Chuka looked at her and said, You're glowing. She laughed. It's sweat and lemon water. No, he said seriously. It's strength. Tari went to bed smiling. By the 6th week, the weight loss was undeniable. Her cheekbones were more visible. Her skin had cleared. Her walk had purpose. She no longer thought about Mimi or even Ife. She thought about what version of herself she hadn't met yet. She wasn't rushing revenge. She was restoring herself. And she was just getting started. It had been nearly 3 months since Tari had stepped foot outside without fearing of judgment. But today was different. She wore a mustard yellow jumpsuit that hugged her waist and flared around her hips in a way that she felt both freeing and bold. Her heels clicked on the pavement with confidence. Her new braids swung with every step. Chuka walked beside her, subtly protective yet completely respectful. They were headed to a business networking event, one of the biggest in Lagos, the kind Ife used to dream about, the kind he probably thought Tari would never attend unless she was waiting tables. Not today. As they stepped into the ground hall of Echo Hotel, whispers followed. Heads turned, people smiled. Tari's shoulders stayed back, her chin up. She belonged here. Chuka! A man approached them with a wide smile. I see you brought your queen. Chuka chuckled and placed a hand gently on Tari's lower back. Yes, this is Tari. The man extended his hand. I've heard of you from the Green Wellhead campaign. Your voiceover was powerful. Tari blinked. That aired already? Trending on Instagram right now, actually. Chuka grinned. I told you it would shake the internet. Tari smiled but kept her composure. Internally, she was screaming. 2 months ago, she'd been crying on a mattress, wondering if she was worth anything. Now strangers were quoting her words. Across the room, Ife stood near the bar, sipping overpriced champagne. He hadn't shaved. There were creases in his shirt. Mimi was nowhere in sight. His eyes scanned the crowd lazily until he saw her, Tari. His breath was caught in his throat. He blinked. Is that Tari? She looked like a woman in a magazine cover. Elegant, powerful, and untouchable. She was laughing at something Chuka whispered. Holding a glass of white wine, her body language screamed confidence. Ife took a step forward. Chuka noticed him first, his eyes narrowing, but remained cool. Tari turned, and their eyes locked. And for the first time, Ife didn't feel like the man with all the control. He felt small. Ife hesitated, then finally made his way through the crowd. Tari, he said, his voice hoarse. She turned slowly, her smile dimming just a little, not from fear, but control. Ife, long time. He stared at her. You look different. Amazing. Thank you, she replied, then took a sip of her wine. Chuka stepped slightly forward, close enough to mark his presence without being aggressive. I didn't expect to see you here, Ife added. Neither did I, Tari said, glancing around, but life is full of surprises. Ife tried to laugh, but it came out dry. So, you and Chuka? Yes, Chuka answered flatly. Ife cleared his throat. Business partners? Chuka's lips curled. Something like that. Before Ife could respond, a camera light flashed. A reporter had just captured the trio, standing together. Social media would spin the story by morning. Mimi suddenly appeared from nowhere, clutching a glass of red wine and clearly intoxicated. She wrapped her arm around Ife possessively. Babe, she slurred, then looked up and narrowed her eyes at Tari. Who is this? Ife froze. Mimi, this is Tari. Mimi squinted. Tari, the big one you told me about, she snorted. You clean up well, I'll give you that. Tari raised her glass calmly, and you drink just as well. Cheers. The insult didn't go unnoticed. Mimi's eyes rolled and she dragged Ife away, muttering under her breath. Chuka leaned closer. You handled that like a queen. Tari smirked. I didn't have time for children anymore. They walked towards the next section of the event, where a new product was being unveiled. Chuka handed her a brochure. I want you to be the face of this project. It's about women, growth, and second chances. You've lived it. Tari looked at the proposal. It was bold and ambitious, just like her. You really think I can carry this? She asked. No, Chuka said. I know you will. That night, as they drove home, Tari stared out the window, watching Lagos shimmer under the moonlight. Her past had tried to bury her, but she was blooming through the cracks. Last week, Tari's face appeared on 4 major lifestyle blogs. Photos from the gala were everywhere. Her smile, the dress, the undeniable confidence. Headlines read, CEO's Muse or the new powerhouse. Who is Tari? From shadows to spotlight. The woman stealing Lagos' attention. Ife's ex is the new face of resilience. At first, she was overwhelmed. Then she owned it. Chuka's media team prepped her for press appearances. Interviews were scheduled. She was invited to speak on a woman's empowerment panel, Within 2 weeks, she was no longer just a face, she was a voice. She didn't just endorse the new product, she helped design the entire campaign around it. Reclaim her, become the movement. A herbal supplement line paired with a mentorship program for women recovering from emotional trauma, divorce, or weight struggles. Tari poured her soul into it. Every color, every slogan, every testimonial was inspired by a chapter of her life. Meanwhile, across the city, Ife was drowning. The contract that had made him rich was slowly turning into a nightmare. Deliverables were behind. Logistics failures were piling up. His team was inexperienced. His spending out of control, and investors were growing impatient. To make it worse, his name kept appearing in the press, but always next to Tari's. At first, he tried to laugh it off, told people it was clickbait. But then clients started associating him with the man who abandoned the queen. One of his biggest partners pulled out of a deal saying, "We are realigning with brands that promote female empowerment." His phone calls weren't being returned, his emails ignored. The reputations he once basked in was evaporating. And Mimi, she was spending more and more time at clubs, appearing in influencer skits, tagging new men in suggestive posts. The cracks widened. Tari sat across from Chuka in a conference room holding a sleek tablet in her hands. "You're trending again," he said casually. She raised an eyebrow. "What now?" He turned the screen towards her. It was a new headline. "Tari, from forgotten wife to national icon." She chuckled softly. "I didn't ask for this. You earned it," Chuka replied. She looked up at him. "You really believe in me that much?" She didn't blink. "More than you know." She didn't sleep the night before the campaign launch. Tari sat at her desk in the guest room, flipping through final drafts, rehearsing her speech, checking the marketing rollouts. Everything had to be perfect. This wasn't just business. It was the loudest statement of her rebirth. The venue was packed, a rooftop terrace overlooking the Lagos skyline, lit with soft golden lanterns aligned with banners that read, "Reclaim her, you never lost you." Tari stood behind the curtains, heels planted, heart racing. "Just breathe," Chuka whispered beside her. "They are not here to judge you. They are here because they believe in you." She exhaled. The emis introduced her. "Please welcome the woman who redefining strength, beauty, and self-worth, Miss Tari Nwokocha." Applause, cheers, cameras flashing. Tari walked out, shoulders back, spine straight. Her gown was sleek, deep emerald green. She looked like royalty. She took the mic. "When a man told me I was too big to be loved," she began, "I almost believed him. But pain can be fertilizer. It can grow the boldest parts of you." Her voice grew steadier and more powerful. "Reclaim her. It's not just a product, it's a movement. For every woman who was told she's too broken, too fat, too loud, too late, I say no. You are not too anything. You are exactly enough, and you always were." The crowd erupted. She saw tears in the eyes of women in the front row, saw her old self in their faces, saw the fire she'd been missing for years finally roaring in her chest. Meanwhile, Ife sat in his office, surrounded by chaos. His project manager had just walked out. The vendor for the shipping containers was demanding double pay. One of his logistics hubs had been flagged for safety violations, and Mimi, she'd packed her bags that morning. "I didn't sign up to watch you unravel," she said coldly, tossing her ring onto his desk. "You've become pathetic." Ife didn't argue. He just stared at the ring. Within 24 hours, his main investor called to suspend the contract. "We don't like how your name is trending," they said. He called Chuka. "Please," Ife begged, "give me a chance to fix it." Chuka was calm. "That contract was your lifeline. You mismanaged it. This is business. Let me speak to the board. I'll explain everything." There was a pause. Then Chuka said, "All right, come tomorrow. The team will be waiting." Ife showed up in a wrinkled blazer and nervous sweat. He stepped into the boardroom and froze. At the head of the table, sitting in confidence with a leather notebook open and glasses perched on her nose, was Tari. Ife stammered, What is she doing here?" Chuka smiled lightly. Didn't I tell you? Tari is our new director of strategic wellness initiatives, and she will be reviewing your report personally. Tari looked up, calm, collected. Please sit, Mr. Ife. Let's talk about your numbers. Tari closed the folder in front of her and tapped her pen once, then twice. Mr. Ife, she said clearly, the financials your team submitted don't match the initial figures you promised at the start of the contract. Ife shifted in his seat. There were unexpected costs. The market changed. Tari raised her hand. You received more than enough capital to cover for contingencies. What this looks like is mismanagement, or worse, manipulation. Chuka leaned back, observing silently, his expression unreadable. Please, Tari. Ife dropped the formality, his voice cracking. I messed up. I know, but everything is collapsing. I need more time. Tari took off her glasses, folded them neatly, and met his eyes. I once needed more time too, Ife. I needed a husband who would stay when things were hard. I needed a man who wouldn't trade my loyalty for vanity. But I didn't get that, and I didn't beg. I rebuilt. Ife looked down. She continued, her voice steady. This isn't personal. It's business. And in business, failure to deliver means termination. Our lawyers will be in touch. Chuka slid a document across the table. This is a formal breach notice. You have 14 days to return outstanding funds or face asset seizure. If his hand trembled. Please, I'll lose everything. Tari stood. Then maybe you will understand what it feels like to be discarded. She walked out, heels clicking against the polished tiles. Chuka followed. As they reached the elevator, he spoke softly. You okay? She inhaled deeply. I thought I would feel triumphant, but all I feel is free. He smiled. That's a win. They stepped into the elevator as the doors closed. Tari didn't look back. 3 weeks after the boardroom meeting, Tari became a national symbol. Billboards bearing her face went up across Lagos, Ikoyi, Lekki, Ikeja, even in Surulere. The Reclaim Her movement wasn't just a campaign, it had become a revolution. TV stations invited her for interviews. Radio hosts quoted her words. Women shared their stories online, tagging the brand and calling Tari their inspiration. She made it out, one user posted, so can I. Meanwhile, Tari remained grounded. She still brewed her teas each morning, still journaled her thoughts at night, but her calendar was packed. Meetings, endorsement deals, a publishing offer, a documentary proposal. One evening, Chuka walked into the living room to find her pacing. What's wrong? He asked. I just got an offer to speak in New York, she said, holding her phone like it might bite her. An empowerment summit, all expense paid. Chuka smiled. So what is the problem? I'm scared, she admitted. Good. It means you're doing something worth it. Tari smiled back, but her heart pounded. The scared version of her still lived inside, whispering lies, but she silenced it, now with proof that she was no longer that woman. She booked the ticket. Across town, Ife was a shadow of his former self. The lawsuit was underway, his account frozen, his luxury cars repossessed. He rented a small flat in Yaba, shared walls, broken AC, the kind of place he once swore he would never return to. He saw Tari's face on a passing BRT bus and nearly dropped his phone. He tried to call her, blocked. He emailed, no response. He thought of Mimi, then dismissed the thought. She'd moved on with a club promoter barely 2 weeks after walking out. He had nothing left but time and regret. Back at Reclaim headquarters, Tari was preparing something new, a mentorship arm of the program. It's time to reach the girls before they lose themselves, she told Chuka. Not just cure pain, prevent it. He nodded. Let's build it. Together they drafted a curriculum. Self-worth, financial literacy, nutrition, emotional boundaries, career planning. It was everything Tari wished someone had given her. The first cohort launched with 25 women. Tari taught the first class herself. When she walked in, the women stood up and applauded. Don't clap for me, she said, smiling. Clap for the woman you are becoming. They did. Weeks later, Tari stood on a stage in Midtown Manhattan, looking out at an auditorium filled with over 1,500 women from all across the world. The woman who built, Summit was a magnet for global voices in transformation, innovation, and leadership. Tari, once a woman sobbing into her pillow in Bariga, now stood center stage under bright white lights, wrapped in a navy blue pantsuit and wearing her natural hair in a bold puff. Her speech drew tears. Her panel responses drew applause. Afterward, executives, students, activists, and reporters queued to meet her. Cameras flashed. Business cards exchanged hands. That night in her hotel room, she started out over Times Square. "I did it," she whispered to herself. She picked up her phone. A message from Chuka was waiting. "You were brilliant." Proud doesn't begin to describe it. She smiled and typed back, "Couldn't have done it without your belief in me." Meanwhile, in Lagos, Ife hit his lowest. Eviction notice on his door. The last of his designer's clothes sold online. The BMW gone. He wandered into a bar with cracked furniture and flickering lights. Ordered one bottle of beer he couldn't afford. A man beside him asked, "Weren't you the guy that owned Empire Logistics?" Ife didn't respond. He just stared at the muted TV above the bar. He was playing a documentary teaser. Tari's face appeared on screen. He dropped the bottle. The bartender shook his head. "Clean up in our tree, fallen king." Ife stumbled out into the street and screamed into the night. But no one heard. No one cared. Tari was invited as a guest speaker to a high-level policy summit in Abuja, a televised event where the theme was Women and the Future of Leadership. It was the first time in the program's history that a speaker from the wellness and recovery space had ever been invited. Midway through her keynote, Tari noticed something, a figure standing at the very back of the room. It was Ife, disheveled, thinner, but very much present. She continued her speech with composure, but her pulse quickened. This wasn't fear, it was awareness. After her standing ovation and press questions, she made her way backstage. She was just about to head to her car when she heard his voice. "Tari." She turned. He was standing in the corridor, eyes hollow, voice small. "Can I talk to you?" She nodded once, briefly. Ife stepped closer. "I lost everything, I know. I've been sleeping on Kunle's couch, eating once a day. Nobody wants to hire me. My name's toxic." Tari remained silent. "I deserve all of it," he added. That made her pause. "I've spent the last 3 months asking myself how I could have hurt someone who did nothing but love me. You were loyal, patient, strong. And I chose image over character. Now I see the difference." Still, she said nothing. He stepped forward, desperate. "I'm not asking to come back. I know I've lost that right. I just wanted you to hear me say I'm sorry. Truly." Tari looked at him, not with hate, not even pity, but peace. "I forgave you a long time ago, Ife," she said softly. "But forgiveness isn't the same as access." He nodded slowly. His shoulders slumped. "You were the storm that taught me to rebuild," she added. "But I'm not walking back into the rain." Ife's eyes glistened. She walked past him, and he didn't follow. That night back in Lagos, Tari sat on the rooftop again. Chuka joined her, just like before. "Everything okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I closed the chapter today." He poured her a glass of wine. "To the next one?" She clinked her glass with his. "To the next one." Back in Lagos, a surprise awaited her. Chuka had secretly finished renovating the second week of Reclaim Her. This one, a traditional home for women living abusive marriages. He walked her through it. 6 rooms, a common kitchen, a library, therapy spaces, a rooftop garden. When they reached the last room, Chuka stopped. "Tari," he said, nervous for once. "I love you." She turned. "I've loved you through every version of you, even the one who couldn't see how bright she shined." She stepped forward. "And I love you. Not because you saved me, but because you never tried to own my pain. You just made space for it." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside it was a ring. "Will you build the rest of this life with me?" She didn't cry. She just smiled and said yes. They embraced as staff quietly watched from the hall, applauding and whispering joyfully. The wedding was quiet and private, held in the rooftop garden, surrounded by mentees, staff, friends who had become family. Tari wore a gown made by a designer she once mentored. Chuka wore a white agbada with her name stitched into the cuff. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real. 2 years later, the Reclaim Her Foundation had spread across 5 African countries. The name Tari Nwokocha was etched, not just on plaques, but in stories, in homes, in the hearts of women who had once believed survival was the best they could hope for. And now they thrived.